and welcome to 16 by 9, The Bigger Picture. I'm Mary Garofalo. They were seniors desperately looking for someone to help them with their legal problems. Except they say the man they hired stole their money and their dignity. They say no one would help them. So that's when they called 16 by 9. I'm Mary Garofalo with the television show 16 by 9. How are you? I'd like to talk to you about all these people who are angry at you across the country. Meet the man they call the Digger. His real name is Dave Switzer. He claims to be a paralegal by day and a poker shark by night. And when 16 by 9 caught up with him, you might say we found him a little flushed. People are calling you a con man, Mr. Switzer. They say you took their money. Before we tell you what he's done, we'd like to introduce you to a group of people who want to see this man behind bars. They say Dave Switzer played them like a dirty deck of cards.
I went back as a greeter at a store, and I have to stand for 6 hours a day when I work. I'm sorry, I can't help it.
78-year-old Joan Stevens is devastated because instead of enjoying her golden years in beautiful Surrey, BC, she's been forced to go back to work. She says Switzer took her life savings of almost $150,000 and more.
I sold gold coins for $3,700. I cashed in my GICs for $10,000. I sold 118 teleshares at $39 each. I cashed in uncirculated $1 bills. I cashed in my Terry Fox dollars. I cashed in probably about $30,000 worth and ran my credit cards up to about $60,000.
So why did Joan hand over so much money? Well, she says it all started when she needed legal advice after her son got into an accident at work. She says a friend recommended a paralegal from Ontario named David Switzer.
And said, I know a paralegal in Ontario who's never lost a case. And she introduced us over the phone that night. And he said he was very interested in coming out and discussing the case.
Soon after, Switzer flew across Canada with this woman, Doreen Henderson, to take the case. A woman he told Joan was an associate. A woman 16 by 9 learned lives with him in this house. Joan says Switzer made lots of promises.
He said my son would probably get around $12 million.
So Joan paid him a retainer.
I gave him, yes, the first $3,000, then $2,000, then another $5,000 in August, because he said he needed it to talk to people and get some things done quicker than would be normally done through normal channels.
And Joan says he kept wanting more and more money to continue the case. She says Switzer asked her to make some checks out to Doreen Henderson. She says they kept taking her money until she had nothing left. She says she waited 2 years for a settlement that never happened and realized she'd been taken.
It makes me absolutely hostile. If I was close to him, I'd go and take a baseball bat to him myself.
Joe Gray from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan met Dave Switzer at a poker tournament.
He's a con man, and he's a liar. I bought 2 tractors and a snowplow out of his estate.
He says the smooth-talking Switzer quickly became his newest best friend, asking him to travel to casinos and poker tournaments across the country. All the while, Joe says, he was asked to pick up the tab. And when Switzer never produced the tractors he bought, he knew something was wrong.
I have lost in the neighborhood of $65,000.
He says he met Switzer's sidekick, Doreen Henderson, and this time she was introduced as his wife. He told Joe she was the reason he couldn't give him his tractors.
They told me they were married and they were having a divorce. The divorce was hung up by her dad. As soon as that money was there, it freed up the estate and freed up the tractors.
So Joe Grave gave Switzer another $20,000 to help pay for the divorce, thinking he would get his tractors.
And it just about put me bankrupt.
Eventually, Joe took Switzer to court, but Switzer agreed to pay him back some of the money.
I got $40,000 back. He still owes me another $40,000.
And even more people who call themselves victims of Dave Switzer contacted 16 by 9. We met them all here at this farmhouse owned by Paul Gerber in New Hamburg, just outside Kitchener, Ontario. Paul Gerber went to Switzer for legal advice, too, on a tractor trailer he bought. Months later, he says Switzer took his life savings and left he and his wife in debt. So you're out how much money?
Probably somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000.
Even his son Roger was talked into giving Switzer money. He says he thought Switzer was selling him a new house.
When I gave him the 20,000, he said it should be up next week. And then the next week came, and next week.
Basically,
next
Roger
week.
got suckered into the get rich quick scam. Took $20,000 from our savings, thinking that it would be returned, 4 times that within 12 days.
The ordeal broke up his marriage with his wife, Debbie.
I begrudged him for losing our savings.
He's just a soulless, pathological liar. He doesn't care about anything or anybody but himself.
Russ Langfield says he also gave Switzer $60,000, believing he was buying repossessed vehicles and property, except he says he never saw any of it. He says, unbelievably, Switzer even tried to sell his house to this man who asked us to hide his identity. Except Russ's house was never for sale.
I'm a trucker, so I'm not home all that much. He's bringing other people over, showing them around the property, and selling them my house or taking money down on the house, telling everybody where Russ is getting divorced.
Well, he said it was part of the repossession stuff, so he had access to stuff, and security codes and in and out privileges, his truck.
And what did he tell you as he was showing you the house?
Russ will be moving out, going to jail, all kinds of neat stories about him.
Was any of it true?
I'm going to go with no.
And after calling police, Switzer agreed to give back Russ $20,000, not even close to the money he lost. All these people say they've gone to the police with their problems, and they say no one has been able to help them and expose Switzer. Have you all spoken to the police?
Yes.
All of you?
Yeah.
And to his attorney.
Yeah. They got more excuses than Dave does why
Yeah,
he's
because,
in the wrong. He's not in our jurisdiction. He's in another county, or the RCMP. Well, if he comes back to British Columbia, but as long as he stays in Ontario, we can't do nothing.
We contacted Waterloo Regional Police. They told us they know of 3 complaints against Switzer, but all cases have been resolved. They also told us they've handed over any future complaints to the OPP. We also contacted RCMP in British Columbia and Ontario. British Columbia told us they had 1 complaint against David Switzer, but they chose not to file charges. Ontario would not confirm or deny any investigation. So we decided to catch up with Dave Switzer for some answers. People are calling you a con man, Mr. Switzer. They say you took their money. Mr. Switzer, they say they came to you for legal advice, and you, in fact, promised and produced lawsuits that never actually existed, and that your friend Doreen here, her name is on checks and legal documents. Anything to say to all these people who call you a con man, who say that you took their money? Mr. Switzer, anything at all? We contacted Switzer a second time, hoping he would answer our questions, but again, no response. We did, however, find him easily enough over the internet, where the man known as the Digger posts his poker jackpots. And all these people fear that's where their money may have gone.
He is digging graves for everybody else is what he's doing. I guess you could call him a grave digger now.
I want him put away. I want him put away. He's ruined too many people's lives.